We need to really pray for wisdom for our city and pray for our mayor. He came out with us on our route for an hour, and he's got a real heart for the homeless. And after the 1 hour, he said, if every city councilor could see what I just saw in 1 hour, then we could really get something done with the housing crisis that we have in our city. So right from the top, and then we got Amy, city councilor over there, and she understands. So we got God's got the right people in the right place. So we need to pray for wisdom and agreement, and to really be able to help with this housing crisis, mental illness crisis, and the addictions that follow all of that, or sometimes cause it. All right, I got a fun message this morning. We're gonna tell a familiar story, but we're gonna expand on it. The story of Gideon. Most of you have heard of Gideon and the fleece. We're gonna skim across that part, but we're gonna look at the bigger picture. Gideon, he was a rock star. He was unbelievable, but he didn't start out that way. But first, I want to establish, for lack of a better expression, the doctrine or the main theme that I want to get to. It has to do with trials. There's not one person here this morning that doesn't have something that's just gnawing at them, some sort of trial. And so I want to kind of give you some perspective on that. So if you have a Bible, you can turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 12, and then we'll flip over to Gideon. So this is the kind of the premise of Gideon. You can go ahead and ride through. Okay. I just realized that we got this pathway that, we've taken over the pathway. Oh, okay, it's Elvis. Thank you very much. Elvis has left the building and come to the park. 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Now the Apostle Paul is writing to the Corinthians here, and he just finished telling them that he had been taken up into heaven and saw things. One of my favorite scriptures, saw things that man is not permitted to tell. I love that line. So this is what he says happened to him because he was taken up into heaven and saw just amazing things. On verse let's go up to verse 7, halfway through. Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, listen to his response, therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. He delights in them. For when I'm weak, then I'm strong. So when I was going through a tough time, I remembered this. And I was pleading with the Lord too, just pleading with him. God, I take this away from me. And I remembered God's response to Paul when he was pleading with him. He said, no, my grace is sufficient for you. And that really bothered me. I thought I need more than something that's just sufficient. I need more than and grace, it kind of felt like that pat on the back. So I went to the original Greek word that's translated into Greek, into the word grace here. And the original Greek word is charis. And if you've been around my teaching long enough, you know I'm passionate about this, translating this word properly. The original word for grace that was used here is this. Charis means the divine impact on the heart and the reflection in the life. So in other words, grace is when God does something so powerful inside you that it comes out your eyeballs, it comes out your mouth, it comes out your countenance, it comes out in your attitude. So when the Apostle Paul, that's why he responds with, therefore I'll boast all the more about my weaknesses and and so that Christ's power may rest in me. That's grace. When Christ's power does something in you, and then it comes out, the reflection in the life. My grace is sufficient for you. And now I like that. And so, unfortunately, human nature is this: if we don't need God, we won't want him. So that's why trials come, so that we come, and the trials are usually bigger than us, bigger than what we can handle. And they have come so that you will focus on God, so that he can now do something in you that he couldn't while you were just going about your way, and you felt like, no, I can do it on my own. But when you're really in need of God and you come to him pleading, right? That's what our text said, pleading. Paul was pleading with him. I need this. I need this thorn in my flesh taken away. And it's that thorn in the flesh that gets you into the face of God. That's why both the book of James chapter 1 and 1 Peter chapter 1, they both talk about trials. Consider it pure joy when you go through trials of all kinds, because it's working out something deeper. It's working out a faith in you that's more precious than gold, silver, or precious stones. And if you've ever experienced that, see, you're all going to go through trials. But as a Christian, you can now go through trials, and it makes you stronger. It gets you closer to God. It gets you more Christ-like. For when I'm weak, then I'm strong. As long as I think that I can do it, I won't turn to God. And he won't do something better in me. He's not just going to do it. He wants you to want him and ask him, do that in me. So that's a pretty good advantage. So now, with that in mind, turn to Judges chapter 6. Judges chapter 6. Way back in the Old Testament. It's about the fifth book in the Bible, something like that. Or no, seventh, I guess. Judges chapter 6. Now Judges, here's the book report on Judges, and you can actually read it in chapter 2. It says, just need a little paperweight or something. Oh, and water. Can't see that. So Judges is this. It's after the Joshua generation, who, when Israel was left, got out of Egypt, escaped from the clutches of Pharaoh in Egypt, after wandering for 40 years in the desert, they get into the promised land. That's the Joshua generation. After the Joshua generation, it says the next generation didn't know Joshua or anything that God did in that generation. There was no oral tradition. No one boasted in the Lord. And so the kids grew up not knowing what God could do. And so they started serving other gods. Well, then to get their attention, God would give them a thorn in the flesh. And he would allow all the other countries around to conquer them, to attack them and conquer them. And then once the oppression, we're going to see this in the story, once the oppression got bad enough, then Israel would cry out to God again, and God would raise up a judge or a leader and rescue them from that country. It happens about 12 times. Once they get comfortable again, no one's oppressing them, they go and serve other gods. The other countries come and attack them, they cry out to the Lord, God frees them. As soon as they're free and they get comfortable, they start serving other gods. It loops about 12, I think it's 12 times. It's just tedious, but God is so faithful. So we're going to see one of those loops right here. Chapter 6, it starts this way. The Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and for 7 years he gave them into the hands of the Midianites. There's the thorn in the flesh. Because the power of Midian was so oppressive, the Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in mountain clefts, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern people invaded the country. They camped on the land and ruined the crops all the way to Gaza, and did not spare a living thing for Israel, neither sheep, nor cattle, nor donkeys. Now listen to this. They came up with their livestock and their tents like swarms of locusts. It was impossible to count them, or their camels. They invaded the land to ravage it. Midian so impoverished the Israelites that they cried out to the Lord for help. It worked. The thorn in the flesh worked. It does all the time. If you know that there's a God, and all of a sudden you're faced with something bigger than you, and you cry out to him, and what does he do? He responds. He responds. So, what thorn is in your flesh right now? And are you just crying over it? Or are you taking it to the Lord? Because if you're a believer, there's nothing that comes to you that doesn't come through God's hand. And if it's come to you through God's hand, then there's purpose for it. And that means you can call out to him, and if nothing else, he's going to give you that grace. He's going to give you his presence that's so powerfully affects you that it just oozes out of your life. So, they cried out to the Lord for help. When the Israelites cried out to the Lord because of Midian, he sent them a prophet who said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. I rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians, and I delivered you from the hand of all your oppressors. I drove them out before you and gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the God of the Amorites, in whose land you live, but you haven't listened to me." So you see the purpose, that God allowed the Midianites and Amalekites to come out and attack them to get their attention so that they could have this conversation. Verse 11. The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. Have you ever been so attacked by people that you're just hiding out? You're still working, but you're hiding out. You're just afraid to go outside. You notice what he's doing? He's a farmer, first of all. Gideon is a farmer. He's not a warrior. He's a farmer, and he's threshing wheat in a wine press because he could at least hide out. Because if he did it out on the threshing floor, outside, and it always helps when there's wind blowing by when you're threshing wheat, but he didn't have that advantage because the Midianites would come and just take it. So here he is hiding out. Have you ever been so oppressed by people that you're hiding out? Me. I've been there. And so when the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, verse 12, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Isn't that a strange greeting for a guy that's hiding out? For a farmer? God knows what you're made of. And you were created in his image. And I think quite often, especially when there's oppression, we tend to cower. And yet God sees us. He sees us, and he's looking at you and he's saying, "I know what you're going through, but I know that with me, you're a mighty warrior. Let's partner together." And how many times have you heard me in the last year talk about the partnership that God wants to have with us? And here he is saying, "I see something different in you, Gideon. And not through your actions, but I see deep, deep down inside of you that you're more than what you think you are." That's a pretty powerful God. Pretty loving God. But we're in his image. Gideon replied, "Pardon me, my Lord, but if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?' But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian. All of that's true, isn't it? All of that's true. Yes, he did bring him out of Egypt, and yes, he did give him into the hands of Midian. But God sees the greater plan. We're reading it from God's perspective, and we see that there's purpose in everything. But all Gideon knows is, yeah, you might have done all that, but I don't even know because you're not doing anything now. Have you ever felt like that? A lot of us have testimonies. I have a whole bunch of testimonies, things that God, beyond coincidence, things that God has done, beyond my ability, beyond my smarts, beyond my wisdom, things that God has done that I can look back and say, look what the Lord has done. But when I'm faced with something presently, I find it difficult to go back and say, well, he did it then, so he can do it now. I sing songs like that, or try to, but it's difficult, isn't it? But what I love about this, and what let's read on, is you're going to see how patient God is with our doubt, with our human perspective. Because he has this amazing, powerful, all-knowing perspective, but he knows our limitations, and he's so patient with us. Listen. So the Lord answers Gideon, turns to him and says, go in the strength that you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you? So there's just such beautiful relationship in there. Okay. He says, I know that you have strength. You think you have a little. I see that you have a lot. Go in the strength that you have, the little bit that you think you have. Because God's not going to just, I've often said, God is not, he's not the business of picking you up. But he is in the business of when you get up, he'll hold you up. But he doesn't want to just, come on, just get up, But if you get up, he'll hold you up. And that's the partnership. He's not going to go against your will. And if your will is just to lie down on the ground and moan about it, or hide out in your house, you limit what he can do, because he won't go against your will. But if you get up in the strength that you have, even the little bit that you think that you have, then God can partner with you. So he says, go in the strength that you have. Am I not sending you? So you see this partnership back and forth. Gideon again, though, says, pardon me, my Lord, but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I'm the least in my family. The Lord answered, I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive. Now, it is kind of an odd choice, don't you think, that God would choose a guy from the least clan and the least in his family? But we're going to see the brilliance of that. I just love this. I love this. The brilliance of God using the least of these, the weakest of these, the poorest of these, the one without the resources. Watch this. Gideon replied, okay, if now I've found favor in your eyes, would you give me a sign that it's really you talking to me? Have you ever done that with the Lord? Just give me a sign. Please do not go away until I come back and bring my offering and set it before you. So, the Lord said, I'll wait until you return. See how gracious he is? He'll work with us. So Gideon went inside, prepared a young goat, and from an ephah of flour, he made bread without yeast, putting the meat in a basket, and its broth in a pot. And he brought them out and offered them to him under the oak. So he's giving him an offering. The angel of God said to him, take the meat and the unleavened bread, place them on this rock, and pour out the broth. And Gideon did so. And the angel of the Lord touched the meat and the unleavened bread. There's so much symbolism in there. I'm not even going to get into it, but it all represents Jesus. And with the tip of the staff that was in his hand, fire flared from the rock, consuming the meat and the bread, and the angel of the Lord disappeared. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he exclaimed, Alas, sovereign Lord, I've seen the angel of the Lord face to face. But the Lord, the voice said to him, peace, don't be afraid. You're not going to die. All right, now flip over. We're going to see how patient God is. You think fire coming down and consuming something in front of you would be enough. And in that moment, Gideon goes, all right, it's the Lord talking to me. And wouldn't you write down everything that he just said? Wouldn't you love if God would come and sit down at the kitchen table with you and say, okay, here's what we're going to do today. Gideon had that. Then he gets this miracle. But turn to verse 33. Now all the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern peoples joined forces and crossed over the Jordan, camped in the valley of Jezreel. So they're all coming for them now. And remember, I want you to remember the description of them. They came in like locusts. Just the Midianites came in like locusts. Too many to count, the Bible says. Too many. Now you have the Midianites and the Amalekites and the other eastern people joined forces and crossed over the Jordan. But here's verse 34. Gideon obviously took that little bit of strength that he had and watched the partnership. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, summoning the Abiezrites to follow him. That was his clan. He sent messengers throughout Manasseh, calling them to arms, and also into Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali. Those are tribes of Israel. So they too went up to meet them. Gideon said to God, if you'll save Israel from my hand, as you've promised, look, I'll place a wool fleece on the threshing floor. If there's dew on the fleece and all the ground is dry around it, then I'll know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you said. And that's what happened. Gideon rose early the next day. He squeezed the fleece and wrung out the dew, a bowl full of water. Here's the patience of God. Then Gideon said to God, please don't be angry with me. Let me make just one more request. Allow me one more test with fleece, but this time make the fleece dry and let the ground be covered with dew. That night, God did it. Only the fleece was dry. All the ground was covered with dew. See how patient God is? Again, you think the fire coming down from the tip of the staff would have been enough. You think the angel, or the Lord appearing and then disappearing, you think that would be enough. You think that a conversation would have been enough. But you know, like, this was a real physical battle that was about to happen. These armies, or these people as vast as locusts that couldn't be counted, are coming at them. This is a big deal. But this, when there's something bigger than you that comes at you, and you turn to the Lord, and he partners with you, this is how God. So how would you build an army in this case? You do what Gideon did. Blew the trumpet, and let's get as many of the tribes, the clan, around as possible. But this is how God builds an army. Watch this. Early in the morning, Gideon and all his men camped at the spring of Harod. The camp of Midian was north of them in the valley, near the hill of Moreh. The Lord said to Gideon, you have too many men. I can't deliver Midian into their hands, or Israel would boast against me. My own strength has saved me. Now announce to the army, anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead. So 22,000 men left, while 10,000 remained. So you have these countries like locusts coming at you, and Gideon thinks, okay, I got, like, do the math, I have 32,000 men here. That's still not enough. God looks at it and goes, you got too many. You got too many men here. Because if we do it with 32,000 men, you're going to think you did it. But we're doing this together. And don't you ever think, especially when you call on me and there's success, don't you ever take the glory for yourself. So I'm going to limit your resources so that when it does happen, when that battle is won, you're going to know, you're going to look back and say, look what the Lord has done. Watch this. So 22,000 men just left. But the Lord said to Gideon, there's still too many men. Take them down to the water and I'll thin them out for you there. It's like, thanks, God. If I say this one shall go with you, he shall go, but if I say this one shall not go with you, he shall not go. So Gideon took men down to the water. There the Lord told him, separate those who lap the water with their tongues as a dog from those who kneel down to drink. Out of 10,000 people, 300, sorry, my pages are flipping here. So Gideon's, the Lord, sorry, it says, let the others go home. My page is flipped and now So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites home, but kept the 300 that drank from cupped hands, lapping like dogs. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. He went from 32,000 to 10,000 to 300. And now God's ready to go. God's about to do a miracle. And wouldn't you rather partner with God in miracles than just always be clamming for your own resources? That's the way I want to live, right there. God, you and I are going to partner together today. I may not have enough strength or money or friends, but God, as long as you're with me, let's just let miracles go before me. Now the camp, this is continuing on. Now the camp of Midian lay below in the valley. During the night, the Lord said to Gideon, get up and go down against the camp, because I'm going to give it into your hands. If you're afraid to attack, I want you to go down to the camp with your servant Purah and listen to what they're saying. Afterwards, you'll be encouraged to attack the camp. So he and Purah, his servant, went down to the outposts of the camp. So they're sneaking into the camp. The Midianites and Amalekites and all the other eastern peoples had settled in the valley, thick as locusts. Their camels could no more be counted than the sand on the seashore. 300 people against that. But God, Gideon arrived just as a man was telling a friend his dream. So I can just picture them outside of a tent, and Gideon and his servant Purah are listening. The man says, I had a dream. A round loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp. It struck the tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed. His friend responded, this can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash. So his name got around. He was hiding out in the winepress, but because of the partnership with God, his name was getting out. This can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash the Israelite. God has given the Midianites and the whole camp into his hands. When Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he bowed down and worshipped. He returned to the camp of Israel and called out, get up, the Lord has given the Midianite camp into your hands. Now, I'll leave the rest for your homework, because it goes on for a couple more chapters how God and these 300 Israelites absolutely conquers the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the other eastern countries that were coming at them. Absolutely amazing. I don't know what you're going through at this point, but I can almost guarantee there's trouble, because Jesus guaranteed it. He said, in this world you will find trouble. But then he followed it up with, but fear not, for I've overcome the world. Right now, are you clamoring for your own resources? Are you running around? Are you hiding out? You're running around trying to get as many people. Maybe you're fighting against somebody and you're trying to get everybody to agree with you. Maybe you don't have enough resources, so you're killing yourself with 2 or 3 different jobs. Maybe this whole COVID thing has got you just scared and you're hiding out. I don't know what you're going through, but I want you to learn from Gideon and learn that thorn in the flesh principle. That whatever it is that's caught your attention that you're dealing with, that thorn in the flesh, you can turn that from you being a victim of it to that letting you going to God and you letting God do something absolutely profound in you. And you will start seeing miracles in your life, but the first one will be in you. To close, I just want to go to the end. It's Gideon's death. And I just read this last night. Yeah. So Judges chapter 8. Watch this. And this is the final challenge for this morning. Verse 33 of chapter 8. No sooner had Gideon died than the Israelites again prostituted themselves to the Baals. They set up Baal-berith as their god, and did not remember the Lord their God, who had rescued them yet again from the hands of all their enemies. They failed to show any loyalty to the family of Gideon, in spite of all the good things that he had done for them. So the main part of what I've been talking about is when you're going through a trial, then you need to go to God. And you'll start seeing miracles, and the first miracle will be in you, because he's going to give you his grace. And it takes that trial for you to go to him white-knuckled. I won't let you go unless you bless me. But the other challenge is when things are going well. And for me, that's the greater challenge. When things are going well, when I don't figure I need anything, I started by saying instinctively, when we don't need God, we won't want God. We need to serve him and love him and say, God, even today, when I don't necessarily have a need, I want you to do something profound in me. Because I think I have needs that I don't even know about. So whether it's in good times or bad times. Last week we were talking about, Jesus died on the cross, got beaten beyond human recognition, and he died on the cross and he resurrected from the dead so that we could simply come to him. Romans 10:9 says, you believe in your heart, you confess with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord, and you are saved. That's how easy it is to be a Christian. But he wasn't looking for people that would just pay attention to him every once in a while, every Sunday morning or Wednesday night. He wants people that love him and walk with him and pay attention to him. Wake up in the morning and say, good morning, Lord. What do you want to do today? And walk with him all day long. Every day I have a habit, and I need to start doing it as soon as I wake up. But one of my favorite theologians was C.S. Lewis, and he said, one of the greatest challenges when you wake up out of your sleep is to wipe away all of those dreams that you had, all of your agenda for the day, and push them all aside, because they come rushing at you, don't you? As soon as you wake up, as soon as you're conscious again, your day comes rushing at you. Yesterday comes rushing at you. And you got to push all that away and say, good morning, Lord. And that's a discipline. What do you want to do today? I'm so glad that I woke up. Let's go. But at different points in the day, and I need to start doing it in the morning. And I even said it again today, Lord, whatever my hand finds to do today, bless it. And I'll do it with all my might. And there's that partnership there. And you start doing it. Sometimes, and I've said, I'll be working a whole half a day, and then all of a sudden, I'll realize I haven't said that. And as soon as I pray that, everything changes. And I pay attention to him. And the things that I was having struggles with, all of a sudden, I'm finding solution after solution. It's amazing. Try it. Our God is a great God. He's an absolutely great God. And he wants to walk with you. And he wants to make your life a miracle.